Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of Igbopedia. I am your host, Chisom, and my special guest today is Nki Iweka. Nki is a British Nigerian introducing Nigerian cuisine to an international audience. She is the founder and owner of Patanga, a Nigerian restaurant in West London in the UK. Patanga boasts an eclectic client base and is fast becoming a destination restaurant for Nigerians and non-Nigerians alike. Nki Iweka trained as a computer scientist and worked for several years as a management consultant at Unisys and at PwC. I'm so excited to have this conversation today with the executive Mama Put and foodie. We're going to talk about her journey from executive professional to successful restaurant owner. Welcome to the show, Nki.
Thank you for having me.
It's great. It's great to have you on the show. I'm really excited and I think we'll have a really good conversation. So let's begin by talking about the relationships that we as Nigerians have with food. In the past, you've described Nigerians as functional eaters. So let's unpack that a little bit. What exactly does that mean?
I guess it means we eat to survive as well as opposed to eating, I don't know, actually, eating to impress or, we're pretty basic when it comes to our food. We know what we like. We basically we like jollof rice, we like egusi, maybe okra soup, a bit of yam, plantain, that's it. We're not very adventurous when it comes to eating outside of our own individual nations in Nigeria, much less out of the country.
Yes.
It's always amazing to me that, in fact, a friend of mine asked me a while ago, is your restaurant near an airport or something? And I said, why? She said, because you're always telling me somebody came from the airport or somebody was on the way to the airport. They literally, they start looking for me. So, we're not that far, but we're not that close. So I guess that's what I mean. If you look at other cuisines, they sort of have evolved over the years, at least even within my lifetime. Think about Indian food, for instance. It's interesting that one of the most famous Indian dishes in the UK, chicken tikka masala, is not actually Indian. It was developed here because an Englishman apparently wanted a sauce, a gravy on his grilled chicken. So the restaurateur quickly went, and it's the kind of thing I would do actually, went and made this sauce. So the chicken tikka masala was born. And a few years ago, it was now taken back to India. So they now sell it in India. It was developed here in the UK.
Interesting. Well, Patanga is an awesome restaurant in West Kensington in London. And there, diners can feast on traditional dishes such as egusi and okra soup, as well as some of your signature inventions, jollof balls and prawn akara. Tell us how you came to opening this restaurant and the concept behind all of this.
So I was 15 when I first moved to England. And I guess after a while, I wondered why there wasn't Nigerian food everywhere, the same as there was Indian food, Chinese food. I mean, part of the reason, I suppose, was because Nigerian ingredients were not readily available at that time. That's probably a major reason. I remember my mum used to go to one particular shop in Kilburn. Everyone knew him, Charlie's. He was an Irish guy, where everyone went. And I used to be shocked at the price of red onions. And they would buy it because he's told them they've come from Nigeria. God knows where red onions came from. Wasn't the price now. And then, they had to adapt. So, they would use flour to thicken stuff because they couldn't get traditional thickeners and so on and so forth. That was always on my mind as a 15-year-old. And I think over the years, it must have started at university, because when I bump into people that knew me at uni, they always seem to remember me by some meal I cooked. So maybe that's when it started, but I don't know. I feel like I've always cooked. And when I left PwC, I was going to set up a restaurant, but I had very young children at the time. It's really hard work. It's not conducive. What else? I don't know. It's just been a bit of a journey of years. And then just a few years ago, I thought, it's now or never. So I started for a place, and then the building found me, because people keep saying, but it's not near your house. Why did you? But I just loved it so much. It's a place to get to, but I love it. Once I'm there, I'm fine. Yeah. The journey, I don't like.
Yeah, I think it's a great location. And actually, it's a very interesting name, Patanga. It's unique. How did that come about?
Okay, so I wanted the restaurant to be about the Nigeria of my childhood, which was a pretty happy childhood for first 15 years of my life is where I lived. I have very fond memories of growing up in Nigeria. Now, there was a plant which I always explain, it's a cherry. In Nigeria, it's used as a hedging plant. And It was our version of apple scrumping. So as you walk along, you just take it from people's houses and eat it. And I just particularly like that cherry. We just called it cherry. That's the name. You know how Nigerians, we have names for things, functional names for things. We don't have,
Yes.
I don't know, beef bourguignon or something like that. We just have beef, beans, cherry.
Yes. Simple, short stuff.
Rice. The most exotic maybe it might be jollof rice. I don't know. So, anyway, so that's the cherry. The name of the cherry is Patanga. So Patanga is all about nostalgia for me. And I want people when they come to just feel at home, to have some throwback memories, just to feel like they sit in their granny or their mum's house.
Oh, that's lovely. And I think I felt like that when I actually visited the restaurants, but we'll talk about that a little bit more later. I'm interested to find out a little bit more about the first 15 years of your life in Nigeria. So which part of Nigeria are you from? Tell us like the most interesting parts of growing up in Nigeria for you.
I'm actually a Biafran baby. That's how old I am, very old. So I was born towards the Civil War. And I think probably the first couple of years of my life, I was born in Ihiala. So the bits I remember, the life I remember, I lived in Onitsha. Went to primary schools, nursery and secondary school in Onitsha. So I spent a lot of time there and in Enugu, which is where my grandma, my grandpa, my mom's parents lived. And obviously we hung out as well in Obusi, which is where my dad's parents lived. What was the most interesting bit for me? GRA Onitsha in those days was very, very, very different to what it is now. I was actually shocked when I went back a few years ago. I was just like, I couldn't even recognize the place. So it was a very, very cosmopolitan place that I grew up in. People from all over the world, Chinese, Greeks, Indians, and you meet them at the library. They became family friends. So we would end up eating all sorts of different cuisine, and they would eat us, we eat theirs. For me, I think that was maybe my best friend at the time was Charlotte, an English girl from, I can't remember what part of England she was from, but she was my best friend at one point. And I remember the chants. I remember my dad asking me a few years ago, he said, do you remember the chants? I remember them, but I don't remember their maid. He said, do you remember their maid? So apparently she'd got married and she could speak Chinese all those years ago. And she'd recently got married maybe about 10, 15 years ago. And the chants had kept in contact with her all that time, had bought her and her new husband a car each. Isn't that wonderful?
That's lovely.
Yeah, so all those years, they'd left Nigeria years before and they still kept in contact.
And they still remembered. Yeah. Oh, that's really lovely. I like this sort of stories.
Same here.
What were your favourite traditionally Igbo dishes on the Patanga menu?
People always ask me what my favourite meal is, and you'd be shocked, actually. I quite like spaghetti in tomato sauce and chili. It's my comfort food. The traditional Igbo food, I guess it's because I'm cooking Nigerian food all the time, so sometimes I just want to eat something else.
Yeah.
My favourites vary. So for quite a while, but I think probably onugbu is always my favourite. I just love onugbu. And that's on the menu. When I go to a bus, they know when I'm coming, they always have okwa, because I love okwa. Okwa waiting for me with onugbu, and it's so nice. At the moment, I'm really loving ofowere as well.
Ofowere, very nice. And what's the swallow that you have with it?
I try not to, it's when you get to my age, right? You have to be careful what you eat. Seriously, I used to be very skinny, you wouldn't believe it, but I was. So I'm really trying to reduce the amount of carbohydrates I eat. It really depends on the soup. I think with onugbu, I always have eba, gari, with onugbu. It depends. I think different soups go better with different sides, So if I were eating a salad, which I like as well, I like the way I make it because I put lots of ogili in it. And if I were eating that, then I'd eat it with pounded yam. Those are the two that we serve. I don't serve anything else. I just serve those two things, eba or pounded yam.
And you mentioned that you're trying to watch your weight. And often a criticism of Nigerian food that people say, and I think mistakenly, is that Nigerian food is not healthy enough. What say you to those doubters or haters of Nigerian food for health reasons?
I think they're wrong. They're misinformed. The problem is people eat too much. It's about portion control. I'm always astonished how much people eat, to be honest. There was a guy the other day, I just thought, no, he can't possibly eat. I said to my waitress, is he going to eat? Is he hungry or something? I just couldn't understand how much food this man had ordered. And he was that. And he ate it all. He actually ate it all. He had edikaiko.
Wow.
He had plantain. He had suya. He wanted another salad. He had 2 starters. He had akara. He had jollof rice. And I was like, gee, And then on top of it, I wasn't upset about it because, hey, helps a tip. But going back to your question, funny enough, he wasn't even Nigerian, but I think we eat too much. The portions are too big. And then I think also the way people have been conditioned to eat doesn't help. So I have a Nigerian friend who's a nutritionist, and his advice is if you're eating soup, eat it with a spoon. So if you're eating okra, egusi or whatever, eat it with a spoon. Eat the meat first because the meat fills your tummy up. And then you don't feel the need for, I don't really like that word, swallow, but you know what I mean, the pounded yam or deba. You can actually get away without eating about pounded yam if you eat it that way. And he's right, because that's what I do. I just every now and then I just fancy about, I just want that taste, so I'll eat it. But most of the time I don't eat it. And then people are scared of palm oil as well because they say, oh, high cholesterol. It's not true. Palm oil is a plant fat. It's a healthy oil. It's up there with olive oil and coconut oil. It's got plenty of antioxidants, various vitamins. It's good for you, the way we eat it. I'm not afraid of olive oil. I'm just saying, don't be afraid. I'm not afraid of palm oil, sorry. I love it. Happily eat it by itself.
Yes, I know. It's a shame that some people say these things about Nigerian food, but it's clearly there are some health benefits because our ancestors ate it.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, they were not. It's just the way we eat. It's one of my aunties was even saying to me that, oh, people don't eat ogbono so much anymore because it's high cholesterol. I'm like, what? I mean, that was news to me. I couldn't even be bothered to explain to her that because she was, I knew she would argue with me. So I just thought it's just no point. That they're actually selling it as a food supplement called the African bush mango, which is supposed to aid in weight loss. So, yeah. Anyway.
Interesting. The first time I went to Patanga, I went for lunch with 3 other Nigerians, and I ordered my jollof rice, plantains. The food was authentic, the service was brilliant. But what came to me as a huge surprise was the diversity of my fellow diners at the other tables. This wasn't just a Nigerian restaurant for Nigerians. There were other people from other different countries there. How have you managed that?
A few people have asked me that. Some other customers, Nigerian customers. And I think maybe it's just a decor, and it's partially decor, I think. And it's partially, so initially when I first opened, I didn't actually even say Nigerian restaurant. I just had Patanga. We've recently put Nigerian food with a twist. And probably I should have even done that sooner because it looks like I'm getting more people by doing it. And that's even more non-Nigerians as opposed to Nigerians.
Right.
To answer your question, I think it's partially location where I am. It's pretty diverse there. It's a bit of a touristy, or it was, obviously before the pandemic, area. It's near Olympia. There are several hotels around. So people looking for food. Some of them wondering, they don't even know where they're coming. So I remember some, where were they from? 4 Polish people. And they had the seafood okra. And they were like, this is the best English food we've had since we've been here, right? And my waitress had to say to them, no, it's not English food. It's Nigerian food.
Amazing.
Oh, where's that? So she had to bring out the world map and show them where Nigeria was on the map. That was what part of Poland they came from, but they'd never heard of Nigeria. So we have some accidental tourists, as it were. But we also have, I think also, just London. Londoners are quite adventurous in their taste, I would say. They like trying out new cuisines. I also have Afrobeat musicians to thank because I'm not always that busy. I have time to chat to people. How did you hear about us? Blah, blah, blah. What did you think about food? And a couple, at least 2 or 3 have said to me, well, I like Davido's music and he's always going on about jollof rice and egusi. I wanted to eat it. So I looked for a Nigerian restaurant and then you had great reviews. So I came to you. That's another reason. I think the decor helps as well because it's bright, it's welcoming, you know what I mean? It's bright, casual, so people are not afraid to come in. I think quite a few other Nigerian restaurants tend to be closed off, so you can't really see inside. Yeah. Whereas my windows are huge and open, so you can see what's happening. There's nothing scary.
Yeah, it's all transparent. That's good.
Yeah.
You spent a few months working as a chef in Nigeria. How does developing cuisine for Nigerians based in Nigeria compare to doing the same for a more international audience?
Okay, that's quite an interesting question because I actually had a few trips to Nigeria, and the very first time I actually went to do some training for a large organization to train their chefs,
right? Which
kind of scared me because I thought, my God, I'm going to Nigeria to train Nigerian chefs how to cook Nigerian food. So yeah, that was quite daunting, but it was fine. It was funny. I think I've had some, maybe because I've lived here for so long, there is a bit of a culture clash or cultural differences between me and Nigerians in Nigeria, just because even though we speak English, we don't always understand each other. So I'll tell you a funny story. When I was in the training, they wanted me to teach them continental dishes as well as Nigerian dishes. So it was more about getting them enthused about cooking. That's what their boss wanted me to do, to just fill them with just joy about cooking. So just give them your passion. That's what I want, Inky, from you. Right? So I was there for 3 weeks. And so for each week, at the end of the week, we would have, on the Friday, we would have the executives come.
Right.
We would make lunch for the executives so they could also, because it wasn't just the cooks, it was the waiters as well, waitresses. I was training. And we were making a salad. We were making tabbouleh. Like I said, they wanted me to teach them some continental dishes. So I did. And I said, where's the colander? And one of the waiters says, Kola, Madame is looking for you. So I said, and Kola goes, Madame, I'm here. And I said, I know you're there, I can see you, but I'm not looking for you. I said, what are you guys talking about anyway? They said, sometimes we don't understand you. So I was confused. I just said, okay, I'm looking for the bowl that has the pink bowl with big holes. We call it perforated basin. I'm like, what? I said, how is that easier than what I said? Anyway, in the evening, I was telling my friend Vivian the story because I was staying with her. And I said to her, as soon as I said, he said, Kola, Madame is looking for you. She started laughing. She goes, they thought you said Kola da. Kola da in Yoruba means, where is Kola?
Ah.
Do you understand? I said colander. I said colander, and they're saying, they thought I said colada.
Oh, so lost in translation.
Yeah. And that happened a lot. So even when I was working for as the chef, it was like that as well. I had to change things I said. So I couldn't say I wanted a sieve. I'd say shifter, because if not, nobody would talk. And then my kitchen assistant, for example, whenever I said, Rose, come and mop the floor, because sometimes you'll get slippery, she'll pour water on the floor. And I'm like, why do you keep doing that? There's oil, now there's oil, there's water, the big fryers. Why do you keep doing that? She said, you tell me, make I do them. And I said, no, I said, mop the floor. I said to her, okay, what can I tell you that will make you, because when you're busy, you haven't got time to stop and start explaining. I said, just tell me what I can tell you that you will do to get the floor clean, but not wet. She said, you're supposed to tell me, make I wipe them. I said, sorry, So I had lots of funny moments like that. Now, in terms of developing the food, it was with the hotel, it was what the owner wanted. So he wanted more. He didn't really want Nigerian dishes. So basically, I brought in more of my fusion things, which I now do as well at Patanga. So the jollof balls, that sort of stuff. That's what he wanted. So I think I only had 2 purely Nigerian, 3. So 3 Nigerian soups. Everything else was more Igbo. And then what I found really strange was how much Lagosians love calamari. It was one of my best sellers. They just love it. I was really shocked by it.
Yeah, I have to say calamari is one of my favorites. It's whenever I go to a restaurant, it's the thing I always order for starters.
Yeah, I love it too.
Let's rewind to about 10 years ago. You're working in the city as a management consultant. You've got your career path paved for you. You're very successful, well paid, etc. At what point did you decide that you were going to switch gears?
I know I said 10 years, but it's actually probably much longer. I think what happened was I had a second child. And actually, even by the time I had my first child, it's quite difficult being a management consultant and being a parent. And also because my ex was also a management consultant. So at some point, I just thought, they just can't have 2 parents out of the country.
Yeah.
So it seemed easier for me to resign. So
let's just move a little bit on to how you so you resigned, and then how did you manage to convert your cookouts at home, which were really successful, into opening a restaurant? What was the journey to actually finally opening your first restaurant?
So initially actually what I thought of doing was a food cart, right? I just thought it would be easier. But it was then really hard. And also street food was quite trendy at the time I was thinking about it. But it was hard to find a spot because most farmers markets didn't really want that. What they wanted were primary producers, so farmers, bakers, that sort of thing. So that's when I then started the pop-ups. And then I think after about 2 years of pop-ups, I thought, actually, I'm getting a bit fed up with people coming to my house. So maybe it was fine and they were always respectful. But, sometimes marks on the wall and stuff like that. So not done on purpose, but it's just accidentally, maybe they scraped a chair.
Right. Yeah.
And I just thought maybe I should find somewhere more permanent. And then also somebody who had come, one of them had said to me that I want to invest in a restaurant. So I then started looking. And then he decided he couldn't do it for various reasons. He was opening up another business. Anyway, so I just thought, let me just do it by myself. And that's how I did it. It was, sometimes I wonder why I did such a mad thing. But most of the time I'm happy.
Well, it all works out very well for you, clearly. What challenges have you faced in setting up a restaurant business, particularly one where you're serving cuisine that is not native to the country where the restaurant is located?
I mean, my biggest challenge, seriously, is, maybe I should bore your listeners because there are many, 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 many challenges to setting up a restaurant. But I would say my biggest challenge is actually getting the right staff. But I think that's just an industry-wide problem. It's the same. It was the same in Nigeria. It's the same here. I'm on various restaurant groups on social media. I hear the same stories from people all over the world. Same thing. It's staffing. We live in London, so it's not that hard. You can get almost anything you need. The only time I couldn't get vegetables I wanted was during the lockdown. So it's not, from a cuisine point of view, it's not that hard, getting the ingredients. Because, apart from some specialist leaves, generally you can get anything, even in some British supermarkets. So that bit's not hard. If you're talking about introducing it to people who've never eaten it, again, I don't find that difficult at all because, again, everyone eats rice, everyone eats chicken. We're just doing it slightly differently. And by the time you've explained to them what it is, they're fine. And, people like Prince Charles and Mark Zuckerberg talking about jollof rice helps. Does help them. So at least some of them heard about it.
That's true.
Yeah, in London, it's not that hard because I've said, Londoners are adventurous. Then you have tourists. Still have a few tourists, who maybe are tired of eating traditional English food or what they see as English, and they just want something different, something to tell their friends about.
Yeah. And what have you learned? You mentioned during the lockdown, you had some difficulties finding a particular ingredient. What do you think the biggest impacts of the coronavirus pandemic will be in terms of like a long-lasting impact? How do you think that will impact the restaurant industry and your business in particular?
Well, I think we have increased costs, So, we provide complimentary sanitizers. I've got face masks there. But, the rules keep changing as well. So it's a little bit difficult to try to keep abreast of it. For me personally, I can't talk for everyone, so I can only talk for myself. For me personally, I think there's some things I'm never going to go back to doing, which is having physical menus. So we have an online menu, which you basically point your phone at a QR code, the menu pops up, and you order and pay through that. And I love it because I can change menu very quickly.
Right.
I don't have to keep printing stuff out. I don't have to keep cleaning menus. It's just that. So I don't think I'm ever going to go back to having physical menus. I mean, I do have people asking, but my phone doesn't work or I don't want to do it. So with them, we just give them our tablet and say, here, look at the menu there. And I think we'll stick to that. A lot of stuff that we're doing now, we were already doing before. Obviously, we weren't really forcing people to sanitize their hands. We weren't doing that, but now we do. So as soon as you come in, you've got to sanitize your hands. I suppose that will last for quite a long time. I don't know. And they'll say, can I go and wash my hands? And I'm like, no, you need to sanitize before you come in, because if you go and wash your hands, you're going to touch my door. Do you know what I mean? So
right.
Those are the main things. I mean, in terms of, and again, I think with some of my suppliers, I no longer use them because they wouldn't deliver to me. So I only use people who deliver to me. So some of them haven't seen me. So I think that's my major change, because I'm trying to reduce the number of places I go to, my exposure. So I literally, I don't even remember the last time I've gone anywhere. Everybody delivers to me.
Interesting. Many Nigerians are reluctant to introduce their kids to Nigerian food for whatever reason. Often they cite lengthy cooking times, difficulty in locating ingredients. We mentioned health concerns, etc. before. What do you say to those that doubt the future of Nigerian food, and how do you as a parent make sure you pass down to the next generation the benefits of Igbo food and also keep the culture going?
Okay, ingredients aside, because yes, of course, depending on where you live, it might be difficult to find some ingredients. But at least the basics are there. You can make stew, you can make jollof rice. There are people who use almond seed, for example, to make egusi soup. So you can find ways of improvising the same way my mum did in the mid 80s when we first came, and there were hardly any Nigerian shops around. Yeah. In terms of the cooking time, yes, some of it is quite lengthy, but you can organize yourself if you have a freezer. You can boil your meat, or you can portion it, you can boil your stockfish. I used to do that. I would buy, because it sticks the house out, let's face it. So I would boil a whole load of stockfish and then just put it in bags. So when I'm ready to cook, I just bring that out. Right. Because once you've done your meat and your stockfish, your smoked fish, Nigerian food is pretty easy. It's so easy. I don't know why people think it's hard. The prep is hard for sure, but once you've done all that, soup's really quick to make, I never really understand when people say, oh, it's hard or difficult. And I think any food that you're cooking is hard. Like when my children were younger, I always had a stew in my freezer, always. Because with stew, you can make a whole load of things. You know what I mean? Right. By Nigerian stew. Yeah. Whether it's Nigerian food, yam pottage, beans, jollof rice. You can even use it to make Igbo food if you want. I know we're talking about Igbo culture, but I just say a lot of people just don't want to cook these days. I've noticed it, I've had a guy, when I first opened, a guy came in and he ordered scrambled eggs on toast. And he said, to take away, he said he was making breakfast in bed for his girlfriend. But he came and bought it from us. As Nigerians say, idea is need, yeah? So I think the art of cooking is dying, and it's not just with Nigerians.